What's up, YouTube? Problem's back. Well, week 6 is in the books. Week 7 coming up. Week 6. Well, I don't believe a lot of people saw any of that coming. So I don't even know really where to start. So let's just get started with the recap altogether. Mississippi State over A&M. How about the state of Mississippi? Between A&M getting beat and Alabama getting beat, I'm shocked they didn't burn it down. I can't remember the last time I've ever seen one, if not both, the Mississippi schools doing that great. I don't know if it would have been any better if Southern Miss probably would have been in the top 10, and then they literally might have made Mississippi and just the state of the whole country, for that matter. Ole Miss beat Alabama. I don't know if that really showed that Alabama's not that good, or if Ole Miss is that good. Nevertheless, the SEC West as of right now is just full of talent, but the problem is that everybody still has to play each other. They haven't even really brushed, besides for maybe LSU, nobody's even really brushed the depth of this side of the conference. It's really going to start getting interesting as far as that goes. Notre Dame beat Stanford. Not only is it just a big win for Notre Dame, it's a big rivalry game, and it was a ranked game. Notre Dame with Ever Golston back is pretty legitimate. I think that they're going to start making some conversation talk, but let's not get carried away just yet. We all remember a few years ago when Notre Dame, undefeated, beat all these teams. Everyone said, oh my goodness gracious, look at Notre Dame. They're back. They're going to be good again. And Alabama stomped them dead in the national championship game. So we'll see just how good Notre Dame is. I think it's next week. They've got Florida State. That's really going to show where they stand on the national stage as far as being a powerhouse right now. TCU beat Oklahoma. That was a pretty big one. It was definitely a fun game to watch for anybody who got to see it. Oklahoma didn't look like they were all there completely, but maybe TCU's that good. TCU's got a big game coming up this week, so we're going to see if they can carry that momentum into week 7. Auburn absolutely smashed LSU, and it wasn't even close. I know I've talked a little bit about LSU here in the past, but those boys are real young, and as of right now, they are going to have a lot of trouble in the SEC West. Auburn, on the other hand, is that good. I think that they have proved themselves thus far as saying that they might be the best team in the country, not just in the SEC. Their schedule, I said it last week, if they can make it through this, especially this weekend coming up, they should be the team to beat as far as SEC goes and in the country. Arizona State shocks UCLA. I know I picked UCLA to win the Pac-12. And then, yeah, so it's still a possibility as far as that goes, because as far as the Pac-12 is concerned, there's just really, it's anybody's ball game as of right now. So that's the big games from week 6, and then we'll get into a little bit about the conferences in just a minute. All right, I started doing this last week. I like to start giving talk about some of the players of the week. Obviously, you gotta pick somebody out of the SEC games this week, and a lot of people are probably gonna, send me some pretty evil emails or hate mail, I guess. But you gotta say Nick Marshall. I mean, a lot of people question Auburn after the Kansas State game. Absolutely came out and torched. He had 200 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He had 119 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. They destroyed LSU. I mean, it wasn't even close. As much as I hate to say it, LSU is going to be in some serious trouble this year. If they can't start winning some of their conference games, it's going to get bad, even though they had that big win against Wisconsin. besides for Nick Marshall, I'm just going to say the entire SEC West. Even the teams that lost are still good, but the teams that beat them are just that much better. The entire side of that conference in that division gets a Player of the Week award because they're really good. They're really good. The next two, I'm going to give two out that came in the same game. I talked about one of them last week, and he's the same guy. Jared Goff from California is, if you like watching people score, I mean, if you're a defensive guy, ignore what I'm saying to you. But if you like watching offenses score points, watch California play. Because this kid is throwing the ball all over the field all the time, and he's having some fun doing it. They beat Washington State this week, not by a lot, or last week. He threw for 527 yards and 5 touchdowns. No interceptions. None. On the year, as of right now, he's thrown for 1,800 yards and 22 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And we're only halfway through the season. Okay? This kid throws the football. And my other player of the week is going to go to the losing side of that game. Connor Holiday, up there in Washington State with Leach and company, threw 734 yards and 6 touchdowns. And 0, that's right, goose egg interceptions. 700 yards and lost the game. How do you throw for 700 yards and lose the game? Nevertheless, I mean, damn, dude. Good for you. That's impressive. 700 yards. But yeah, that's your players of the week. All right. Conference rankings as far as the end of week 6 coming into week 7. The SEC, there's no question there. Maybe at the beginning of the year, we could have said that the Pac-12 was maybe better. I think I might even have said that. Everybody makes mistakes, and anybody who would take any conference over the SEC is absolutely out of their mind. Especially the SEC West, as far as that goes. So you have to put the Southeast Conference at number 1. Number 2 is still got to be the Pac-12. Maybe not the best conference in the country, but they're still really good. Oregon, big game this week. Probably still number 1. Stanford isn't playing as well as we thought that they would this year. USC, you never know what you're going to get from Southern California. And apparently you don't know what you're going to get from UCLA either. And then you have Arizona, who's playing real well. I mean, they beat Oregon this week. And then a lot of people aren't watching these teams, but Washington State, and California are 3 sleeper teams that are going to shake the table a little bit this year. I'm going to talk a little bit about California's quarterback, Jared Goff, a little bit later. The Big 12 is probably number 3. I don't think the Big 10 has as many power teams as they do. Aside with Oklahoma getting beat, it's tough nowadays with scholarships and the amount of talent coming in to college right now. A lot of people don't want to sit, so you're starting to see these teams rise up and beat people, and college is starting to pull a lot more talent because people want to play and they don't want to go sit behind others in Oklahoma and stuff to go sit 2 years to start when they can go somewhere else. The Big 10 has got to be number 4. I mean, Michigan State's a powerhouse right now. You still have Ohio State, who's only getting better. And I think Urban Meyer said that Braxton Miller's actually going to start for him next year anyways. That's if he stays. I would imagine he would. He's definitely going to be at the top of the Heisman contention for next year coming back. And then you have your mediocre teams. Definitely not Michigan, because Michigan is awful. I mean, they're not good. They just got beat by Rutgers. So, University of Michigan in the big house up there, they might be looking for a new coach come the end of this year. But you never know. Who knows? And, of course, you got to put the ACC dead last. I mean, even though Rocking this right here, right there. Besides for Florida State and Clemson, I don't really know who else would be a powerhouse in that conference. I really don't. It's not Virginia Tech. It's definitely not North Carolina. It's not Miami. It's not Louisville. It's not Syracuse. Georgia Tech, maybe? As much as that, Duke just getting beat last week. You have to say Georgia Tech, even though they've got a pretty tough conference slot coming as far as that goes. So, besides Florida State and Clemson, there's really not a lot of powerhouse coming out of the ACC. And that'll be your conference rankings. All right, the best games of Week 6. I gotta say, and I know I've talked about it a lot. Any game in the SEC West that took place in Week 6 was fun to watch. Just because I think the rankings might have had something to do with it, but man, they were just really, really, really good games to watch. And of course, the California-Washington State game. And I'm not going to say anything else about that one, but hell of a game to watch. Just touchdowns left and right. They 11 touchdowns in one game. 11. They scored over 50 points apiece. Obviously, neither team can play defense worth a darn, especially California, but good game to watch. Real good game to watch. All right, I started doing this last week as well. Just a quick touch on this. The worst team, and they actually scored more points this week than they have, they scored more points in Week 6 than they have all in any game this year. The SMU Mustangs. They lost to East Carolina. I figured ECU would have thrown up at least 90, seeing how they put 70 points on North Carolina. They didn't do it. Maybe they were just being nice. They're awful. They're not good. They're the worst team in the country this year, in my opinion. Maybe they need to go back to doing what they used to in the 80s, but SMU is not producing. And watching that game, they're not even on the same level right now as 98% of the teams in the country right now. If they played in a major conference, everybody calm down. I'm not saying that the All-American Conference isn't decent. Granted, they did beat my Hokies, but if these boys played in the Pac-12 and the Big 12, the SEC, Lord help them if they did, and even the ACC, it would get bad. It'd be really bad. Now, if like I said, if you're a gambling man and the spread is anything over, if they're giving him anything less than whatever 20, call it 23 points, you better take that bet, because whoever they're playing, unless it's someone awful, really bad, then they're probably not going to get. They're probably not going to cover. So SMU, boy, in the gambling world, you guys are pretty safe bet. Even though East Carolina didn't cover against you guys, I think they must have somebody big coming up next week. I'm just kidding. But yeah, SMU, worst team in the country right now. All right, everybody's excited. We've got Week 7 coming up. After Week 6, after all the big SEC games, well, we're not done yet. And like I said, Week 6 just started as far as the SEC goes. There's a lot of games coming up in there because they've all still got to play each other. So we're going to still have this going on in the rankings this year. And even Alabama, who got beat by Ole Miss last week, still has a chance to make the playoffs because they've still got a ton of ranked games coming up. And if they can bounce back and win it, that loss isn't going to be anything because we got the playoff system this year. It's none of this BCS crap, none of that mess. Granted, it's only 4 teams, but we'll take it. But nevertheless, the SEC West is not even close to being over with. Friday night, we got Washington State and Stanford. Granted, Stanford's probably going to win this game, but don't be surprised if they can't slow down this Washington State offense. Stanford, I don't know if Stanford has the ability to score points. If Washington State can start getting their offense going, it might be a bad day for the Cardinal out there. It's a Friday night game, so everybody might be able to watch it. If not, you know. But like I said, Washington State is fun to watch. They put up points, and Stanford's really kind of struggling this year. They only put up 14 points against Notre Dame. Not saying that Notre Dame is a really bad, obviously they're not a bad team, but it might be a long year for the old Cardinal faithful out there. We got the Red River game this week. It's definitely not up to the standards that it has been in the past. Texas is not a squad anymore. I don't really know. They didn't let Baylor start running on them too bad. I'm not really sure if that was just Baylor pulling back and keeping everybody healthy or what, but Oklahoma coming off a loss to TCU should beat Texas. I don't see why they wouldn't. But I mean, like I said, it's a rivalry game, but I'm going to go with Oklahoma. I don't see Texas being able to get it together enough to beat them. A big ACC game for any of the ACC fans out there. I know I'll definitely be watching this one. It's a coastal matchup. We got Duke and Georgia Tech. Duke's got one loss against Miami. Georgia Tech is undefeated in the conference. So anybody that's a coastal fan is definitely going to be watching this one, especially the Hokie faithful. We need Duke to come away with this win and, kind of start this coastal tumbling thing that we usually do every year. I never thought I'd root for Duke, but I'm definitely going to be pulling for them this weekend. TCU Baylor, another big game. TCU really hopped up the rankings after beating Oklahoma. I don't know if we've seen enough of Baylor to say they're that good, or if we can say that TCU just got lucky against Oklahoma. I'm going to take Baylor in this one. I just think that their offense is too good. I think they're better than Oklahoma as far as offense goes. And I don't know if TCU wins, then maybe they're the real deal. But I'm going to say Baylor for now. A big Pac-12 game. We got Oregon and UCLA. Brett Hundley definitely looking to bounce back after that loss last week. And Marcus Mariota and company looking to bounce back after a loss. Preseason, these two guys were definitely on the Heisman ballot, and it's not over for them yet. So should be a good game. I'm going to take Oregon. I know everybody's going, oh, you picked UCLA. Well, they haven't shown a whole lot this year. So I think Oregon's going to take it, as much as I don't want them to, because I like Hundley. But Oregon should beat UCLA. Just because Oregon is just too good, and they fumbled last week in their loss. Bama and Arkansas. Alabama, Arkansas. The Tide and the Razorbacks. Now, I know Arkansas is not ranked, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you something. These boys are running the football like madmen out there in Arkansas, okay? If they can get Alabama on their heels with those quarterback problems that Alabama's having right now, they might be able to pull this upset. I don't know if they're ready defensively for Alabama, but we will see. It's definitely going to be a fun game to watch. I'm telling you, another game in the SEC West. It's going to be a good one. You got Arizona USC. Now, I know everybody's going, oh, well, Arizona's in the top 10, whatever. They're going to beat USC. It's the same USC team that beat Stanford. Now, which team's going to show up? Who really knows? I mean, honestly, who really has a clue who's going to show up for this USC team, But, nevertheless, it's a Pac-12 game. It's going to be fun to watch. And, of course, the game of the week, Auburn, Mississippi State. Nick Marshall, Prescott, Bulldogs, Tigers, Cowbells, War Eagle. Nevertheless, another SEC West game. Should be a lot of fun to watch. I got to take Nick Marshall in this. And if Auburn can beat the Bulldogs, I'm not real sure if there's anybody in the West that can beat Auburn. So we'll see if Alabama keeps, if Alabama can get their stuff together and start winning ball games, it might be interesting come the Iron Bowl. But those are definitely the games to watch for Week 7. Hit me on Twitter at ProblemsTF and ProblemsTalkinFootball at gmail.com. Hope everybody has a great football Saturday, and I'll see you next week. Peace.